Hello everybody and welcome back to LMM, and if you're enjoying what you're seeing on the channel at the moment, how about giving this video a like and maybe subscribing to the channel to help us grow, and perhaps even check out Patreon. This morning I'm in Ipswich because there's going to be a abnormal load coming along. This is a 350-ton generator being moved by a road from Ipswich Docks, which is here, hence all the police cars, all the way up to Ely to a new power plant that's going in up there. So I'm here because I grew up on the videos of watching heavy loads being moved around. And so I've always wanted to see one of them myself in real life, and every other time there's been something special come through Ipswich, I've been elsewhere. So today, I'm going to see it fighting through Ipswich.
And here was the plan of attack. Welcome to Cliff Quay, part of Ipswich's still working dockyard. Here, the generator would be lifted out of the hold of the ship and placed upon the trailer. The load would then make its way along the docks, which is all part of a private working dockyard, so we couldn't access that to get any videos or pictures of it, all the way up to Cliff Road where we were waiting, and then it could travel into Ipswich proper. The route it was going to take was quite convoluted because it was too heavy to go over any bridges through the town. First, it would have to travel along Cliff Road over a roundabout onto Duke Street, which would lead it to the A1156. It wouldn't be able to make this corner, so it would then have to reverse all the way up Felixstowe Road, up Bishop's Hill until it got to Derby Road. Now, it wouldn't be able to make that corner either, so it'd have to change direction again in order to make the curve. From there, it would travel along Derby Road, onto Tomline Road to avoid having to go over two railway bridges, and then it would go onto Foxhall Road and drive all the way down there, completing 3 sides of a square. From there, it would get onto Spring Road, which turns into St Helens Street, and follow that all the way through town until that becomes Norwich Road. It would then follow that all the way out of town toward the White House Estate, where it would go over 2 roundabouts and go down the A12 on the wrong side of the carriageway. From there, it would go off and pick up the A140 and travel all the way up to Eye.
So it's all very exciting and it's going to cause chaos. And as it's going to be very slow, I hope to be able to see a lot of it. Of course, to start off with, it was a waiting game. Because it's not a public event, there's not really any information apart from a load of policemen and a load of council workers standing around waiting for the signal to go. And at some point from over that way, a lorry will appear.
Although it wasn't going to be any time soon, because the load hadn't actually been put onto the special trailer at this point. In fact, it was still floating in the air above the hold of the ship.
So, having flown the drone down there, and I can see that the thing hasn't been loaded yet, which is bad because it was meant to have been loaded and leaving at 6, and we're now 3 hours behind and it's not on the lorry. The rumours are various things, that the crane's not up to it or that the dock is cracking underneath it, both of which are exciting.
One of the nicest things to see was the local police sharing snacks with those of us who were waiting, which helped pass the time. But eventually, I put the drone up for another look, and things were looking positive.
So, having flown the drone back down to that end, we can see that it is now finally on the lorry. It is now 20 past 10, and having spoken to the guys here, we've been told that it needs to start moving by 10:30, otherwise it's all going to be cancelled. Now, it previously been said if it doesn't move by 10 o'clock, it was all going to be cancelled, so that might be extended slightly. Obviously, the biggest problem is as the day goes on, the traffic builds and builds and builds, and this huge load was going to cause chaos anyway. It's going to cause a load more chaos.
Having missed their deadline at 11 o'clock, suddenly everybody snapped to attention, and this could only be a good sign. And the view from the air confirmed that this was indeed good news, and the load had started its journey towards Eye. I personally was very relieved, because I'd been here initially since 6 o'clock in the morning.
I didn't think it was going to happen.
But I was so glad that I had persevered and waited over 5 hours for this thing to start moving. We'd been told so many different rumours that it was going to leave at 6, at 9, and then if it didn't move by 10, 10:30 or 11, that the move would be cancelled. So to see it actually moving was so exciting. Although where we were standing, we couldn't actually see this, so this was a view just for me on the drone. What was really exciting though was I was able to tell all of the other people who were waiting that finally their patience had been rewarded and the machine was moving. What was also really cool was I was able to update the police and let them know. Throughout the whole ordeal, they'd been as clueless as us as to what was happening and just hearing rumours coming down the pipeline. So I was able to keep them updated by saying, hey, just so you know, it's not happening for a while because the load is still on the crane, or it's finally now on the trailer. So I felt like I was part of it, and slowly the thing crawled into view. Now, of course, from the air, I got the impression that this thing was quite big. But when I saw it with my own eyes, as it slowly started to crawl past the security gate, we got our first idea of just how colossal this was. I had never seen anything anywhere near this big travelling on the roads before. In fact, I don't think I'd even seen anything the size of the front bogie on the roads. It was absolutely mind-bogglingly colossal, and thinking of the route that it had to travel on, this was going to be quite interesting. That engine that you can hear running, by the way, is crucial to the way that this trailer works. It is powering the hydraulics because every single set of wheels on that trailer can be individually turned to allow it to navigate the tight streets which are just coming up. Having grown up in the town, I have a good idea of the road layout, which meant it was pretty easy to hop in the car, drive and park up elsewhere, and then walk to a new vantage place to see the machine as it came along. This was the first roundabout that they had encountered, and the council workers had gone along in front and taken down all of the bollards and anything else that might be in the way. I was interested to just how they were going to navigate this bit of path in the middle of the road, because driving round it surely was going to be quite difficult. And the way that they got around it was, well, the most obvious. it was to just go straight over it. And when you consider the weight that's going to have to hop up the curb on each one of those set of double wheels on the trailer, it's not the easiest thing in the world. But I just like that. Mount the curb, yep, that's fine. Oh, and yes, that is a Tesla police car. I wonder how much less range he has when he turns the blue lights on. I caught up with the load again as it came out onto the A1156, and you can see behind a load of the redevelopment of the docks with a lot of the new flats that have been built up in a once very industrial and then very derelict area. And as the load begins to take this corner, you can see just how each part of the trailer works, with it able to pivot around a fixed spot. So the front wheels turn one way, the middle wheels stay stationary, and the rears turn the other, giving it a really impressive turning circle. You can't help but wonder about the forces that are in play. Just how can a load that's 370 tonnes swing that far out and not topple over? It's just incredible to try and comprehend. With the convoy splitting up with one of the tractor units going in the opposite direction, this was coming up to being one of the things that I'd been looking forward to seeing most, because currently the load was heading in the wrong direction to what it was meant to be going on the route.
So because of the extreme size of this compared with the rather tight bend over there, what happened to is take the lorries off, turn them around, and then go reverse the load up the hill out of town, which is just absolute. This is so cool.
Regardless of how impressive the load was, I just found the action of a tractor unit pulling a 3-point turn in the middle of town to be quite the amusing spectacle, because this was one of the main trunk roads out of the town centre, and I have literally never seen it this empty before, which made me wonder where the traffic that normally was going along this had actually ended up. I'd also like to point out that as part of your HGV driving test, hitting a curb is an automatic fail, and so it just filled me with a certain amount of glee, just the blatant disregard for any curb that was in the truck's way. At the other end of the load, the once leading and now trailing tractor unit was also paying no attention to the curbs as it performed its 3-point turn and came back onto the now back of the load. And from this angle, you just see how ridiculously big it was. It's just a stupid size thing. It blows my mind that all that weight, all that force acting upon the trailer and the truck can be taken by this single pin.
Until you walk from one end of the machine to the other, you don't quite realise the sheer scale of what they're moving. It's ridiculous. All for this thing, which is 350 tonnes, 370 tonnes, I think was the latest estimate. So now, coming this way out of town, it's all uphill for them to go all the way up, because basically they need to be over there, but they can't get over there because they can't go that way through town because it's too narrow. They've got to go 3 sides of a square.
With the tractor units turned around and now facing the opposite way, the load could continue its journey on the wrong side of the road.
driver will come in front of the welfare vehicle. The welfare vehicle can stop just before the carriage junction. And wait, the driver will wait for the car to walk up and then follow the very close to the stop.
I was amazed at the amount of control that Ali Lee's had over the trailer. You can see here that he's actually grabbing as they position it ready to take the next obstacle. It's taken up both lanes at the same time, and it just really tickles me. But what an absolutely incredible engineering feat this trailer is. Something that can transport loads that heavy and is this manoeuvrable. It's just amazing. As everything came to a stop, you would be forgiven for thinking something had gone wrong, but in fact, they were just attaching the third tractor unit to the front of the first to have enough power to get up Bishop's Hill, and that cable's got to be able to take an awful lot of force through it. Bishop's Hill is a good old climb on foot, so to see these 3 tractor units absolutely flat out to propel this load up the hill was spectacular. And as it made its way towards Derby Road, I headed back to the car to reposition. By the time I'd got myself set up in my new location, the tractor units had come off, turned themselves around, and were now propelling the load back in its original orientation. The challenge they currently had was to try and get round this junction, which obviously was never designed to take a load of this size. Enabled to accomplish this, they started off by going very wide to give it the maximum amount of swing room. The actions of getting the load around this corner happened at a snail's pace, so I sped up the footage to be 5 times faster to make it actually watchable and so you can appreciate what was going on. You can also see how close the load was getting to the houses on the inside, and so the tractor unit was really creeping forward inch by inch, using every single piece of the road that it had available to try and get the load around the corner. Returning to the air and with the footage 5 times faster, the amount of overhang is obvious and ridiculous. It's just mental. It also really demonstrates how manoeuvrable each half of the trailer is, and at this speed it looks a remarkably smooth operation. That trailer is just a thing of beauty. Seeing this load dwarf the normal sized houses on Derby Road really put it into perspective of just how massive it was. Up next was the turn onto Foxhall Road, and this was going to be one of the most challenging manoeuvres that Alleylees had to undertake throughout the entire trip through Ipswich. And frankly, this one shows you why they have such an amazing reputation, because the way that they deal with things going wrong is absolutely amazing. It starts off with the tractor unit going wide, and when I say wide, I mean super wide and just blazingly ignoring the road and heading straight onto the path in the parking area for the California Social Club. Despite its impressive turning circle, it's the trailer's length that's going to cause an issue here, as it bumps slowly up onto the curb and comes round. Because the pivot is in the middle, it simply isn't going to come far enough across to allow the whole trailer to come around the corner. So this resulted in having to back up to swing the trailer further over and have another go. And it really had got very, very close, with the two property owners looking very concerned to just how close the load had actually got to their building. I mean, there must have been less than an inch there. So once again, it was a case of backing up to move the front end slightly further over.
It is so insanely close to the side of that house there. They're having to back up. This is now the third backup they've attempted to try and get the trailer around. The whole trailer, well, the front part of the trailer is now on the pavement over here to try and get the clearance needed to get around there. It's so tight. They don't seem bothered. There's no kind of like swearing. There's no frustrated anything. They're just like, yeah, no, we'll get around.
It still wasn't going to clear, so yet another pushback was needed. I was so impressed with how the guys dealt with this and managed to make it happen. I was absolutely convinced that there'd been some gigantic mistake and it just simply wouldn't go round. They were so calm and collected. It was an absolutely beautiful thing to watch. I then headed back to the car and repositioned, catching the load as it manoeuvred onto St Helens Street. This was a lot easier than the one onto Vauxhall Road. It was a much larger sweeping bend, which meant that hopefully they were going to be able to do it in one move. And in what may have been a first for all of this trip, they didn't actually take the tractor unit and bump up and over the curb whilst making this manoeuvre. Returning to the air and speeding the footage up to 5 times faster, you can see even on this much wider curve, they still have to use every single inch of the space available. And every time it gets me just how far that load can overhang. It just doesn't seem like it's possible. It almost looks like one of those toys you had as a kid. It doesn't seem like something that actually exists in real life.
It's just such an incredible thing to see trundle back, and not the kind of thing I ever expect to see in my hometown, despite the fact that it's a port and this is like the 7th one of these in recent times. But you know, it's still, it's so impressive.
I returned to the car and driving the long way round, I managed to beat it to the main bus station. Having only just caught it at the last location, it was a sprint back to the car to drive down to Norwich Road to see how a lorry of this length would cope with the bane of all drivers, the mini roundabout. And not just a single mini roundabout, but a double mini roundabout. And it did, as you'd expect, it just went straight over on the wrong side of the road. My favourite thing here was the police car being completely confused to what exactly was going on, having to do a quick shifty out of the way. That just amused me intently. Standing next door to this, it is just ridiculously large. It is stupidly big. It takes a full 2 minutes for this to cross from one side of the frame to leaving the other. It is just ridiculous, and I am so excited that I actually got to see it with my own eyes. I grew up on a staple of watching heavy truck videos on VHS and reading books showing the Australian road trains and dreaming of that level of ridiculous vehicle. And this captures all of that magic that these videos and those books granted me, because this is just incredible. You just sit and marvel at the forces involved of carrying this massive 370-ton generator. It's just mental. What an incredible piece of kit. Do you know what? It's something that I would truly love to have a go with, because that just looks so entertaining. A challenge, certainly, but very rewarding. Throughout the narrow, winding streets of Ipswich, this machine had managed walking pace, but now on the comparatively wide streets of Norwich Road, this was doing the pace of a power walk, which meant that in order to overtake for the next shot, I had to go for a run. I had planned to get a couple of other shots of this as it made its way along Norwich Road, and based at the speed it had been travelling, that would have been relatively easy. The problem was that Norwich Road is one of the main trunk roads out of Ipswich, and with that closed for this, it meant that all of the side roads were full of traffic, and that rather hampered my progress. And so I was able to catch it at one of the 2 roundabouts at the White House estate, as it made its way around the roundabout the wrong way again, having already crossed through the bus lane. And even though this was a 2-lane roundabout, they were still having to use every single inch of the road in order to get round. During one of the moments of waiting, I chatted to a lady who turned out to be the route organiser for this, and she said that creating this route to move this had taken 8 months of planning, so no wonder they were so eager to get it done today and not have the movement order expire and have to go through it all again. Now, I expected there would have been quite a lot of work in planning a route for a machine like this, but I didn't realise it would be 8 months in the planning. That is an absolutely insane amount of effort to make this happen, and it makes you realise that it isn't just the drivers and the people on foot around something like this, it's all the people who do the planning beforehand to make sure it's actually going to fit and it actually will happen. A quick sprint took me to my last location, the roundabout which led to the A14. This was going to be going down the off-ramp to run the wrong way up the dual carriageway, and this was because it was simply too heavy to go over the bridge to be able to access the correct side of the carriageway.
So this has now come to a stop on the off-road of the A14. So this is where traffic's normally going that way. Now, this is presumably so they can wait for the A14 to be shut and all the traffic to clear before they drive down the wrong way of the A14 to then drive down to the A140, which has also got to be closed. And also the roundabout there's got to be closed. So there's an awful lot that's got to be done before this can move off. But what a massive achievement these guys have done, winding this 370-ton generator through the narrow streets of Ipswich, which is, after all, a medieval town. It has been fascinating to watch so far. Particularly, it's going to be weird to them become American and drive on the wrong side of the road.
And as it merges with the carriageway on the wrong side of the A14, this is as far as I'm going to chase it. Whilst there are one or two spots along the A14, the traffic is not happy with having one of the major arteries through Suffolk closed. And once it joins the A140, whilst there are a myriad of roads that intersect and go round it, because they are far greater and wider interspersed, it would be much harder to track where this thing actually is. And frankly, I'm more than happy with the footage and the adventure of watching this wind its way through the narrow streets of my hometown. There have been several loads of similar sizes that have come through in recent times, and I've always been busy away filming, driving trains, or doing something else, and so I've never managed to catch them, and I've always been really upset by the fact that this is something I would have dearly loved to see, and I am so grateful that I actually got to see it and spend the day filming a remarkable heavy load. And with that, thank you all very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this absolutely mammoth programme. And with that, if you have enjoyed it, how about clicking up there for something we've done? We haven't done anything similar, but a video there and a video over there. And remember, like and subscribe, and we hope to see you next time. And let me know in the comments below if you made it all the way to the end. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time. Ta-ra!